Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show, Off the Bench. My name is Kevin Cornegay. My colleagues, Javon Tavares, Sean Dustin, they're experts, they're tremendous, they're some of the best in the business. So we just want you guys to partake in this podcast show. We thank you for the support that we've gotten out there. And let's get right into it. Fellas, July 4th just passed. How was your week?
It was good. It was good. Had the week off, a little vacation, so got a chance to spend some time with the family. And all culminating in today, which is my beautiful wife, Janelle Tavares' birthday. Want to give you a birthday shout out, baby. Love you to death. Don't know what I would do without you. Don't know what the kids would do without their wonderful mother. So just wanted to give you an on-camera shout-out. In addition to all the love you get off camera.
Right.
Okay? Let's not get it confused. Some people do stuff for the camera. You know, I can do something for the camera, but it happens off camera as well.
Happy birthday. Happy
big
birthday,
shout out
sis.
to my wife. Love you, babe.
Happy birthday, sis.
Happy birthday, sis.
All right. How was your week? How was your 4th?
Oh, man, the week was beautiful, man. Anytime we get to spend a lot of time with family and friends, you know, 4th of July went, and lots of good, lots of great conversations, and a lot of with the family, friends, man. It was a big thing. You know, I need to get one of these Tavares vacations going on. You know what I'm saying? Great good time, and happy birthday, sis. We for you, help him mold on into the man that he is as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Great life partner. All right, we're getting a little bit of feedback with your mic. So just work on that for us just a little bit, man. We'll continue to keep the flow going. And let's get right into it, fellas. Last show, this is episode 10. So in episode 9, we crowned a champion, or a champion was crowned in the NBA. The Golden State Warriors were able to win the title. And really wasn't a surprise to anybody, but Kevin Durant wins his first championship. Steph Curry gets number 2. Draymond number 2. Klay Thompson number 2. And so they are rolling. And the NBA is just the gift that keeps on giving, because right after the title, we had the draft, which was very compelling. Marquez Fultz going number 1 to Philly. Remember, Philly traded up with Boston to select Fultz. And then we had Lonzo Ball going number 2 to the Los Angeles Lakers. Magic Johnson, in that introductory press conference, he made a statement. He said, "I want to see your jersey up in the rafters, Lonzo." And so they truly believe in his abilities. And then number 3, we had Jason Tatum going to the Boston Celtics. There was some talk that the Celtics really wanted Josh Jackson, but they couldn't get the workout schedule with Josh Jackson. I guess he, at the last minute, agent calls and said, "We're not working out for you." So Boston goes Jason Tatum, Phoenix, Josh Jackson, and then to round out the top 5, the Kings end up getting their man that they wanted all along, De'Aaron Fox. And then, after the draft, we run right into free agency, and that's where we're going to start the show, fellas. A free agent frenzy, lots of things happening. I really want to focus on 3 guys, maybe 4. Let's start with the free agent prize of this season. It was Gordon Hayward. He goes from Utah, takes a visit with the Miami Heat, takes a visit with the Boston Celtics, gives the hometown team a visit, but he ultimately ends up signing with Danny Ainge and the Boston Celtics. So, Sean, I want to start with you. Gordon Hayward signing with the C's. Have they closed the gap with the Cleveland Cavs? If they have, how much have they closed it? If not, speak your piece. What you got?
Gordon Hayward made perfect sense for the Boston Celtics, for their culture, for their play and for their personnel. You have a player that under Brad Stevens at Butler, and he's reunited with his coach for some unfinished business, which for them was winning a championship. Danny Ainge continues to amaze me with the moves that he's made as a general manager, and some of them were questionable when you looked at what he did with dumping the rest of the championship team with Garnett and Pierce and getting them to Brooklyn, and now these draft picks coming into position and really them positioning themselves to compete for a championship. I do feel that they closed the gap between them and Cleveland. I don't know that they get past them this year, but Gordon Hayward's skill set, he's an unselfish player. He can shoot, he can drive the ball, and he has all the requisite skills to be surrounded now with a Isaiah Thomas, a young Tatum, and Al Horford. You have now 4 weapons out there where really Cleveland was able to key in on Isaiah Thomas, who was, let's be honest, he wasn't himself, obviously, with the death of Sister. And now you come back, you have a lot of the same minus Avery Bradley with that trade, but you have Gordon Hayward, who is in the prime of his career. You have more shooters, you have more floor spacing, and you have an unselfish player that can dump the ball in, that can cut after you dump the ball in, who can run, who can roll, pick and pop. Obviously, haven't played out there in Utah, and I think this is a great move for the Boston Celtics. On him to leave Utah after creating a call there and having some young there, a defensive player candidate, a most improved player candidate, than Gobert. But I think he really puts himself in a good position being at the Boston Celtics. You know, they cleared some cap room for him. They let them know, and it's really hard to turn down from Utah to go into a culture with winning, championship lore, and you start looking up at the rafters, you start, getting courted, meeting Tom Brady while you're out there and just getting ingratiated to the city, and that loyal fan base knows and love. They're going to thrive. And I don't think it's going to be a big learning curve or take time to get acclimated. Being familiar with Brad Stevens' scheme, his defensive and offensive schemes, the way he runs his practice, his principles, I think it is a perfect fit for the Boston Celtics, and I do believe they've closed the gap. I don't know if it makes it a 7-game series. I don't think they still get past Cleveland quite yet, but I do think close the gap. If in that series an injury was to happen in Cleveland or something of that nature, they very well could get over the hump.
Gotcha. Sean, keep working on that connection. We were getting in and out. We got most of it, but keep working on that connection. Javon, let me ask you, am I crazy, or because I feel like Avery Bradley is right there with Gordon Hayward, and I would have liked to have seen the Celtics keep Avery Bradley instead of trading him. Let me ask you, have the Celtics closed the gap against the Cavs? Does it worry you that they did have to give up Avery Bradley and Kelly Olynyk to make the signing?
I think the Celtics did close the gap. When you take a look at Gordon Hayward, he obviously was going to be someone that commanded a lot of money on the open market because of what he's done and what he's been able to establish in Utah. But as you said, Avery Bradley is the type of player that defensively is very versatile, and you can always put him on the top guard on the other team. Gordon Hayward, while he's not a bad defensive player, he certainly doesn't have that same defensive tenacity that Avery Bradley had. And then let's be honest, Avery Bradley actually, his game had developed a lot more offensively. He'd become a reliable three-point shooter. He was a guy that developed somewhat of a mid-range game. He was functional. He was definitely functional. So I do have some concerns with Avery Bradley not being there in Boston anymore. But with that said, from what I've seen in the Summer League with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, these are two individuals that at around 6'8", 6'7", 6'8", these are big wings that are going to be able to score a variety of different ways. Jason Tatum can do it outside, inside. Jaylen Brown, his game is much improved. And there are also defenders that are going to be long. Now, Jason Tatum, he's still a rookie. So defensively, it'll take him a while to catch on to the rotations and adjust to the speed of NBA basketball. But take a look at the Warrior blueprint. They've got about 4 or 5 guys that are between 6'7" and 6'9" that are versatile. Okay, so in my opinion, Danny Ainge has simply taken a look at the Golden State model, and he is building something very similar in Boston, which is why I believe that they have closed the gap. And I'm going to have to agree with Sean. I don't know if they've closed it enough to get over the hill, but they're in a much better position. They'll be in a much better position this forthcoming year than they were in this past season. We all knew that the Cleveland Cavaliers, they didn't care about the regular season. They probably won't care about the regular season next year as well. But now with the Celtics being as dangerous as they are with these additions of Tatum and Gordon Hayward, now you're taking a look at a team that can give Isaiah Thomas some help. You can no longer key in on Isaiah Thomas. You can no longer game plan and scheme for Isaiah Thomas. And so we talked about this back during the playoff run. And Sean had mentioned that, and even Ty Lue, and we all know that I had a much ballyhoo diatribe about Tyrone Lue. But Tyrone Lue did make a good point when he said that Brad Stevens is great at drawing up X's and O's. Okay, he's an X's and O's master. So now that he has more pieces that will allow him to run some actions with some other players that can actually get you buckets at critical times, are more difficult to defend than they were this past season. So I do think they have closed the gap. And let's not forget that they could end up with another top pick via Brooklyn in next year's draft. So Danny Ainge has done a tremendous job. I think Gordon Hayward did the right thing by leaving Utah. Let's be honest, it's going to be a gauntlet in the West. The West didn't get weaker. They got stronger. You brought over Paul George and you brought over Jimmy Butler. And I know we'll get to those guys in a little bit. But Gordon Hayward, if I'm a player, I'm saying, hey, we wouldn't be able to improve our position from, I think they were, what were they, the 5 seed? They're not going to improve their position. I mean, hypothetically, they could potentially fall out of playoff contention in the West. So Gordon Hayward packs his bag, moves over to Boston Celtics, where there is that lore. They have an illustrious past, and I think they're building something special there in Boston. But is it enough to unseat the king? Is it enough? I don't know.
And unknown sources are saying what really tipped decision to Boston versus staying out west was that he knew that Boston was harder to game plan for. And so since they were harder to game for than Golden State, I'd rather be with them. You know what I'm saying? If you can't beat them, join them. And that's what really tipped it, is that they were harder to game plan for ultimately than Golden State.
Oh my goodness, Sean, let's stay with you. A couple of moves made out west. I don't think we had a chance to talk about CP3, Chris Paul, going to Houston in a trade. And then I don't think we had a chance to talk about Paul George being traded to OKC. So when you look at the West, and we talk about Houston and OKC, have they at all closed the gap with Golden State? Or are we still saying Golden State is just head and shoulders above those two? Let's start with Houston.
Starting with Houston, I think move kind of baffled me. You talk about two guys that really need the ball in their hand and you're talking about Chris Paul, and you're talking about James Harden. $170 million extension is going to pay him $42.5 million annually.
Wow. Man.
CP3 obviously is an all-time. He's a tenacious defender. He's led the league in steals multiple times. He's a guy that'll get you 10-plus assists, 17 to 20 points a game. Can break people off dribble. Outstanding pick-and-roll player. Outstanding role defender. And he's a tenacious competitor, which I don't know if we can say the same for James Harden, so that may help. But CP3 and Harden, I mean, Dan, if anybody can work from an offensive standpoint, it's Dan Tony. Obviously, him off to where he's had dynamic point guards who will score and pass the ball, complemented with great scores, just like, you had Joe Johnson, Amiri Stoudemire, guys like that when in Phoenix. So from an offensive standpoint, they can think it'll work immediately, but I don't think that gets them over the hump. They have made some additional moves. Getting P.J. Tucker, I think, is a solid role player. I think P.J. Tucker will help out there. He's a proven scorer and can play some defense. And complimenting Ariza there and Eric Gordon, you have a new look New Orleans Pelican team. All of those players in New Orleans. But yeah, I don't think at all that gets them past at all. I don't think that closes the gap at all. I think they're probably a 3 or 4 seed in the West. I still don't think they're going to be seeded above San Antonio at the end of the regular season, and that's probably going to be a match, maybe a 4 or 5 matchup, but I don't think they're higher than the 3 seed in the Western Conference.
Let me ask you about OKC. Paul George going there, teaming up with Westbrook. Did you like that?
I do like that move. I don't. Again, the Western Conference is so loaded. I don't know if even if they're successful this year, if it encourages Paul George to re-sign. And that's the gamble that you take. He's essentially a 1-year rental. I've grown as a player since Kevin Durant left to win a championship at Golden State. But can get Paul George. Paul George is a guy who has to have the ball in his hand every possession. He's good at playing on the ball. He's good at, once he gets the ball, playing ISO. I just don't know if that's going to work. I think it improves them defensively. I think it improves them offensively. They obviously needed a scorer. He's obviously a lot better than a Victor Oladipo and way more dependable. He's 6'8". After coming off a horrific injury, he had the best season of his career. So I believe in Paul George, and I believe that those two are going to be dedicated to make it work. Again, in the Western Conference, unbelievably got better.
Right.
They went and got Nick Young, a guy that can light it up off the bench, can give you instantaneous scoring. They're still making moves. They're not done. Right. They have an unselfish front office. They have an unselfish personnel to where Kevin Durant waited, let Iguodala get his, let Livingston get his, just so he could take a pay cut to keep that team together, which to him. When you're seeing your peers get record-setting deals, and you're financially secure, and you're secure in your legacy and what you're trying to accomplish, and your legacy is bigger than your bank account, I have to take my hat off to KD, and I don't see this move getting OKC past a 5th or 6th seed in the Western Conference.
Javon, let me ask you, before I get you to chime in on Houston and OKC, how far back does Utah fall after Gordon Hayward goes to Boston?
Oh, they're not. They're definitely not in the playoffs for next year. We got to take a look at another key piece that they lost. They lost George Hill to the Sacramento Kings. And remember, George Hill while not a sexy free agent, he's a guy that averaged about 16, 17 points a game. He's going to shoot 40% from three. He's a guy that's going to give you some good defense. And he's just an efficient veteran. He's an efficient veteran. These are the type of players that help propel the Utah Jazz to the playoffs this year. It wasn't just Gordon Hayward, or it wasn't just Rudy Gobert. It was the veterans like Joe Johnson and George Hill that helped do that. So remember, George Hill is now a Sacramento King. So I don't foresee the Utah Jazz being a playoff team. I think they will fall out of the top 8 in the West. And, yeah, I mean, Dante Exum, been watching him in Summer League. He looks to be much improved. I really, really like their first-round draft pick, Donovan Mitchell. This guy is a player, man.
Yes,
he's a player.
Is.
So
yeah.
There were a lot of point guards coming into this year's draft that were much ballyhooed. I know that's the second time I use that. I'm sorry. I'm an MC, so I'm usually conscious of the terms that I use. But Dennis Smith Jr. was a guy that was more talked about. Lonzo Ball, obviously, Markelle Fultz, De'Aaron Fox. These guys were drafted ahead of Donovan Mitchell, but Donovan Mitchell out of Louisville is a player. He's a guy that can defend. His game is a little bit more advanced than what we thought initially. And this is Summer League. You're not going against prime NBA competition, but it does give you some barometer to be able to judge the talent of an individual. I think he and Dante Exum are going to be really good pieces for that Utah Jazz team. But again, no veteran presence really there now. I think they fall out of the top 8.
And to piggyback off of your Dante Exum, I've loved him for years.
He's tough.
His father
and improved his shooting as well.
Right. He just hasn't developed yet. Hopefully, he can stay healthy. Let me ask you. You're an OKC guy, and they make a big move and bring Paul George over. They also re-signed Robinson, their defensive stopper. Can they make a move up the West, or are they still going to be around a 6 or a 7 seed?
Well, I would slot them anywhere between 4 seed and the 6 seed. If this was just a standalone move in any other year where they acquired Paul George, even on a 1-year rental basis, I would say that Oklahoma City had gotten significantly better. But because there's been so much movement in the West, and because other teams ahead of them have done well, I could see them, maybe sliding up two spots in the best case scenario to a top 4 team. But even if they stay at number 6 in this Western Conference, really everyone outside of Golden State is kind of interchangeable from 2 to 6, and that goes for San Antonio as well. So I would say that the Oklahoma City Thunder have gotten better. And I've heard different things from different people that have said, well, why are these teams making these moves? It doesn't make a difference. Golden State Warriors are still the alpha dog. You're absolutely right. Golden State is still going to be the top team in the West. But I applaud these teams and these general managers for going out, making moves. They're not being riddled with inactivity. They're doing things that are giving them a better chance. And again, Golden State Warriors are an injury here. A little bit of, disgruntled chatter between Steph Curry and Draymond Green. All of these things could factor in. And next thing you know, this Golden State juggernaut that we thought was unbeatable, now you're talking about a team that is very much beatable. So you have to applaud these general managers for doing their very best to compete. You're not going to be able to match the chemistry and the talent that the Golden State Warriors have. But what you can do is put your team in the best position, okay, so they can just jockey and stay close. Let Golden State set the pace. And then when you see your opportunity come to playoffs, and that could be via an injury or a suspension. We've seen that happen before. Then you make your move when you have an opportunity. So kudos to the general managers, including Sam Presti, who took a little bit of heat for letting James Harden walk, for trading away Serge Ibaka, and for letting Kevin Durant get away. But he showed you why he's one of the top GMs in the league by making this move to acquire Paul George, who hadn't previously been on Oklahoma City's radar.
Let me ask, and Sean mentioned it briefly about Kevin Durant taking a pay cut. Isaiah Thomas for the Celtics, he's already preparing everybody. He's saying, you're just going to have to back the Brinks truck up to my house because I want my max money. A guy like James Harden, he did not give Houston ownership any type of reprieve. He was like, I want my max money. Otto Porter gets a max contract. Otto Porter. Steph Curry gets his $200 million extension. And LeBron James tweets out, Steph's worth $400 million. He should get $400 million. Let me ask you guys this. Yeah. What's the
LeBron James is a condescending guy. Like, hey, give him $400 million. Hey, Steph's worth the world. Hey, he gave him the best player in the league. Give him everything.
He don't like that. He don't like that, dude. Come on, LeBron.
Hey man, that is a genuine, props given by King James. Okay, he's looking for the greater of the Players Association, the greater good of the Players Association. He wants guys to get paid.
How is he worth $200 million more than the highest paid player in the NBA? Come on, man.
I want you guys to know that although Harden did not give Houston any reprieve, he has increased the salary of the private dancing industry in Houston exponentially with this signing.
Oh my God, that is great, man. This guy, man. Wow, James Harden. Let me ask you guys, as far as these max contracts, where do you guys fall? I know both of you guys are pro player as opposed to ownership if you had to pick a side. Are you guys in favor of these guys just getting as much as you can while you can, or are you in favor of the Kevin Durant route where he says, I'm going to take a $10 million pay cut, allow other guys on the team to be able to cash in so we can keep this group together? Or are you back and forth? Which one are you? Start with Sean.
Let's keep in mind the perspective that Kevin Durant got a raise. He didn't get a pay cut.
Okay.
Now, what he could have gotten in relation to this new CBA, yes, he took less money, but he's making more money per year than he's ever made in his career, in alignment with what happened with the CBA. So, great gesture while still taking a pay raise. Now, with that being said, proportionate to what the owners, to what, what they're making with these TV contracts and the new CBA, I'm all for players taking full advantage of getting a bigger slice of the pie. Actually, they're not getting a bigger slice of the pie. It's just that the dollars have went up proportionately. So I'm for that. When it comes to, if you're asking me when it comes to sacrificing to win versus cashing out, I think that's a player-to-player decision. I think you look at a player like Dwayne Wade, who's in the twilight of his career, who obviously championship, you take the money. You're 35 years old. This is probably the last pay you're gonna get. Get the money right off into the sunset. If I'm a player in my prime, like Kevin Durant, and I've already won an MVP, I've already won 4 scoring championships, and I'm in an opportunity where I could possibly win 3 or 4 of them, by all means, I'm going to take less money to win. To me, that's an easy decision.
Javon, same question.
So I'm all for the players being able to determine their own path. For years, these front offices have fleeced players. They use them up, use their durability up, use their value up, and then they get rid of them.
Right.
So I have no problem with players getting as much money as they feel that they can command or that they deserve. But it comes with a price. Does Isaiah Thomas want the Boston Celtics to back that Brinks truck up to his house at the risk of being able to keep players that could allow the Boston Celtics to win multiple championships or at least to compete for multiple championships? See, now we start talking about, as Sean said, a player-to-player decision. Do you think it's more important to get as much money as you can, or do you think it's more important to still become overly rich and add to the coffer that you already have, or are you going to pull the Kevin Durant move, which is, hey, you know what? I'm not going to take as much as I can get so that I can allow a budget to keep players or to bring in players that you think can help the team. So there's a price for everything. So when Isaiah Thomas says that they need to, back up the Brinks truck to his crib, I get that, IT. You deserve it. You deserve every bit of it. But at what expense? At what expense? And if you really value winning, you won't take as much as you can possibly get. And you'll save a little something for everyone else. But again, that's a personal decision. I can't be mad at someone that says, but I don't really care about the team. I'm only looking out for myself and my family. And, I think it's a little bit of a selfish way to look at it. But let's be honest. These teams, these professional organizations have been looking out for themselves for years. And so now you have more of a player-friendly league where the NBA players are determining where they go. They're determining who they play with. Okay, Chris Paul, he wasn't a free agent, right? Or he wasn't a free agent, right? He basically said, hey, you know what? I want out of LA. I'm not going to re-sign. Right. So he effectively forced them to trade him. Same thing with Paul George. Hey, I'm not going to re-sign next year, so either you can try to get something for me now, or you can just let me walk. So I love that aspect of it, and so I don't want anyone to...
Don't let Rivers off the hook here. Chris Paul was just disgruntled. Okay? Austin Rivers was getting unfavored, better treatment, wasn't being reprimanded the same way.
Right.
They had an opportunity to pull a trigger on a Carmelo Anthony trade, and they would have had to give up Austin, and he didn't pull the trigger because of that.
Listen, don't listen to everything you hear, man. That's what was reported. It was reported that the reason why the deal didn't go down is because Doc didn't want to make that happen. Well, how do we know that Carmelo would have fit into the Clippers system? How do we know that? I mean, everybody takes a look at the name. They see Carmelo Anthony. They see a guy that can score. They see a great isolation basketball player. But I see a guy that doesn't play great defensively. I see a guy that is concerned about getting his bread. And with all due respect, get your bread, Melo. Get your money.
So Could they have gotten worse than getting bounced out in the first round? Could they have gotten worse than not getting past the first round 5 times? Like, could they have gotten worse than that?
Here's a news flash. They may have gotten bounced out in the first round even if they had Carmelo. It's not like Carmelo has some playoff experience. Show me Carmelo's victories in the playoffs.
They would have had another scorer.
Right.
Yeah, but that's the thing. The Clippers didn't necessarily have problems scoring. You got Jamal Crawford that can come off the bench and
they had problems scoring.
They had some injuries, but at the end of the day, you need to be able to defend.
Their jump shot was injured.
You got to be able to defend the San Antonio Spurs, and you got to be able to defend the Warriors. And right. Carmelo bringing 25 points a game, playing isolation basketball, and no defense, it doesn't get you any closer to a championship than if you didn't have him. Austin Rivers, he gives you a great effort defensively. I don't care what Chris Paul is saying. You can say, oh, well, he didn't hold him as accountable as the rest. That's his damn son, man. Come on, let's be honest.
We need a professional detachment.
Man, we don't care about none of that. That's his son. You got to understand that the man has a soft spot for his son, man. He's got a soft spot for his son. I'm sure he wasn't letting Rivers, just do whatever the heck you wanted to do with no accountability. See, that's Chris Paul. See, you got to look in the mirror, Chris Paul. Because someone on this show said something a couple weeks ago when they said, hey, there's been questions about Chris Paul's leadership. You got to look yourself in the mirror, Chris Paul. Okay? Because I remember you having a couple critical turnovers in that OKC series. And I think it was the semifinals before they moved on to play the Spurs. You guys had that series in hand, and Chris Paul, you did that. So you got to, that wasn't Rivers. That wasn't him.
Chris Paul has done that a number of times and not received a heavy enough criticism in the fourth quarter.
That's right.
And this is my point. That wasn't Doc Rivers. I understand that as a team, you kind of want everybody to be held to the same standard. But by the same token, please let's not be immune to how humanity works. That's that man's son, man. And as long as you're not letting him just do any old thing that he wants to do, as long as he's not blowing off plays when he gets out there, Doc tells you to run number 2 up, down, and he runs number 3 side to side. You know, to me, that type of stuff is blatant. Who has the right to actually complain on that team? Is it Blake Griffin? A guy that constantly got punked by Draymond Green and the Warriors. Oh, but the first chance you get to punch your trainer buddy from the Clippers, you break your damn hand.
Man. Hey, fellas, let me.
That's how soft he is. He didn't punch any NBA players, but you punched the trainer and you broke your hand and you were out.
Oh my god!
And then guess what? You come back and you mess up your thigh again. You're out. He can't say nothing.
Fellas,
DeAndre Jordan.
I got Flo fired up.
We fired up, man.